Ah, so this is gonna be like an interesting video. I was sitting in English today, and I didn't bring a book to school. And one of the things that I typically do occasionally is I'll read through a couple of pew research studies, things like that. And it's 11:30 at night right now, so I apologize. My bed's all messed up. Your boy's life has been a little hectic recently, but we still chill. We still chill. But besides, let's get to what I want to talk about. Sorry about the absence of an intro, but something that I read about earlier today is 60% of young men, people in their 20s, are single, and 34% of young women are, and they're in their 20s, same age group. Um, and this whole day, it's kind of been bugging me, because a large portion of our purpose and what we're told to do in life is based off of romantic relationships, right? And if 60% of young men aren't really able to achieve that, like, then what's the meaning to their lives, right? So if we were to imagine that society bases most of the results from people, and people are expected to have more romantic relationships. This is different for each generation because even for like older people, they're significantly uh, less lonely than this millennial generation. And now there's almost no purpose to romantic relationships. Um, and I mean, this could be for multiple reasons. The study suggested that many women are either dating each other or they're dating older men, which there's no innate problem with that. Just becomes complicated when it's our purpose is highly derived off of one another. And with the constant rise in atheism, people have sought for romantic relationships to fill up that void. And it's a little bit problematic, but it, it shows that there's a little hope for Gen Z. Because if we are to assume that each generation, men are only going to get more lonely, which it's a sad thing to think about, but it could be the reality, right? If we look at the baby boomers, they didn't have really any problems with romantic relationships. Same thing with our parents, Gen X, right? Um, and I think, at least in my personal opinion, this has only gotten worse over time. I don't have any studies to back this up, but I just know that the male loneliness rate, it's absolutely high. And I'd only assume that it can only get worse. I mean, it probably doesn't really help with COVID all that much. But I think us, we young men, we have to kind of observe and accept this sad reality before it's too late, because by the time that we become 20, um, I believe that'll be overwhelming to us when we are at that stage. We derive, as I said earlier, much of our purpose from romantic relationships. And before we fall into that pothole, we need to pull ourselves out. We need to realize that we need to derive our values from ourselves. Yes, it may not be the best, but it's the only way to really cope with reality, because if, sure, you can accept the challenge of having a romantic relationship, and sure, you can be part of the 40%. I don't know what percentage of them are homosexual, but you can be part of whatever percentage it is that isn't a relationship. Go ahead. I'm just saying, if like less than half of men are actually in relationships, it just proves to show either men are too lazy to find romantic interest now, or it's just significantly harder than it ever has been. And I think it's the latter. And I mean, as time goes on, as I said earlier, this problem, it will only get worse and worse. Your boy, he can't do too much about this. I'm only a couple inches tall. We only got so much going for us. So for some guys, I'm sure it'll be no problem. It'll be a breeze, romantic relationship. But for others who aren't as attractive, yes, you may go in self improvement, but that can only take you so far. You can improve yourself a lot, and you can try to do what's best for yourself, but you have to realize that there are limitations, and it's unreasonable to push yourself to too much of a limit. At least that's how I see it. And especially when a world wants it has indifference toward you. And another issue, if this percentage of men don't have any relationship, we can only assume what will happen to future generations. What will happen to our population? There's mass amounts of people who just aren't having kids anymore, which sure on its own could be fine. It's really up to the individual whether or not they want to have kids. However, if we want to continue the society and the comforts that we live in, we really, really need to have a stronger push in growing the population. There's not too much that society can really force upon us. It's just with technology and all this stuff, we're getting our pleasures automatically filled. Everything that we indulge in, it's not helping us. People in the 1970s, they didn't have technology to talk to girls online. They didn't have Tinder. They had to go out and actually search for the woman. They had to seek them. And sure, you could say, well, it's helping us. It's allowing more men to have these relationships. Well, it's going both ways. People are having all these options, and they expect that one relationship that they had will be like the other. They dated 110, so they expect that they're only going to date tens. And technology is only, it's only made that issue so much more grand, and it makes it harder to resolve. I can't really offer any solution for this rather than understanding yourself. What do you want? What do I want in my life? I try to go into this in other videos, but I don't think that enough people realize. And part of the American dream is to have a wife. And if 60% of men can't even fulfill one part of the American dream, we can only imagine what this will do for the mass public. How will this affect us as people? I'm certain that this will have many future. Sure, not now. I mean, the male loneliness rate is skyrocketing. I'm not sure for females. My apologies for that. But as my generation, Generation Z, gets older, we can only imagine how much worse this issue is going to get, as I've reiterated. And how will we cope with this? I mean, we can always say that I want to get more money and I want to look better. Well, yeah, sure, you can go do that. But everyone else is doing that. And how will this react to as time goes on? People's standards are only going to get higher. Like, this is going to be a constant competition with one another to be number one. And something that we're missing out on is we got to enjoy life while we have it. But if only the top 40% of men are in any relationship at all, it shows us that the dating market has become overly competitive. And some people may say, okay, this is allowing more men to be in relationships. Yeah. I mean, more men, better men to be in relationships. And sure, that's a valid point. I guess they get to spread higher quality DNA, I suppose. But think about the 60%. I mean, if we determine that all people have their own rights and that all people deserve to be respected, and all these men, maybe, and a good bit of women, I'm sure, just are lonely and sad. I think it's suppressed in our world, these issues. And the reason why these rates have gotten away with being so high is just because we haven't put enough attention to it. I hope that for whatever reason or somehow we're able to pull off something great and turn this issue around. Because in the future, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to our populations? We have all these countries like China, India, that their populations are soaring and can barely have their new generation of people have kids. I think they've been seen too much as a chore, and that our sexual desire overran our desire for a happy romantic relationship. And we go to clubs and we drink and we do all this stuff to fill in these gaps, one night stands, all that stuff. I don't, but maybe other people do that to fill in these gaps, these voids in their lives, and it kind of acts as a temporary border from them and their future problems, which is part of instant gratification. And if people truly want a relationship, as I said earlier, fine, go ahead. However, keep in mind that there's so much that everyone can do, and that we shouldn't burn ourselves down for not being the top 40% or anything at that. Just please remember this. Just in your everyday life, you gotta take what you have and don't for granted. And with the rising male loneliness, we can only imagine this is going to get worse. So the more that we take, the more grateful we are for the things that we have, I think the less likely we are to be lonely, in my personal opinion and in my personal experience. And with this, we kind of need to cope in order to override the city. There's nothing much more. I'm kind of running out of time, but I guess just take this in, maybe with a little grain of salt. Maybe you don't feel the best about it. I'll leave the studies in the comment section, around the comments in the description. And sorry, I'm a little low on energy. I've done a good bit today. All right, peace.